Welcome back. Today we're stepping once more into my little patch of paradise where I have flower pots that find their forever homes, twinkle lights that dance in hedgerows, and I have a floral bow that I think just steals the show. It's part 2 of my whimsical yard makeover, and there's magic in the air. Or perhaps that's actually the scent of lavender and compost. Either way, pop the kettle on, slip off your wellies, and let's see what's blossoming in the garden. So I knew I wanted a place with some kind of whimsical charm, a feeling of seclusion, tranquility, but also inviting. My summer sanctuary where I can relax and rewind. So how do I evoke the country garden feeling? Well, I needed privacy, plants and flowers, a water feature was a must, seating was a must, lighting, some kind of architectural element, whether it's topiaries or structures, and I really wanted a trellis or an arch. So I gathered all my pots together, sort of rounded up everything that I needed, got my plants and started getting ready. I'll be the first to admit I'm not exactly a natural gardener. I don't know all the names, I don't really have a plan, but I do have a lot of enthusiasm and a real fondness for anything in bloom. It was my parents who had the magic touch. They used to come and turn every space into magic. If in the summertime they'd arrive, whether I had a new house or a garden that needed working on, they'd go to the garden centre and come back armed with trays of plants, endless advice, and the kind of confidence only people who have compost under their fingernails can possibly have. They just knew what they were doing, what worked where, what needed sun, and what would grow 6 feet tall when it swore it said on the label, compact, and it would reach 3 feet. Unfortunately, they're no longer with us now, but I think about them every time I press a plant into soil, and every year I try my best for them and for me. I mostly pick things by colour, corals, blues, soft whites, and then I cross my fingers and hope that they all get along. Sometimes they don't, but of course nature has a lovely way of sorting it out anyway. It's become my little summer ritual. It's not perfect, it's not polished, but it's joyful, and a way to feel close to people I miss and to create something beautiful, even if I really don't know what I'm doing. And honestly, that might be the best kind of gardening. So, one of my big requirements was a garden arch of some kind. I've looked for months now to see if I could thrift something that we could use, some kind of trellis, or so. Had a couple of different ideas. I've been gathering those birch sticks. I end up using that for something else. So instead, hubby decided to make me an arch out of fence boards. So we used 2 uprights, and then he made, as you can see, he cut them at the angles to give me like a peaked roof look, and then braced it with another piece of wood, and then we attached them to our old winery barrels. These are the florals that I gathered together that I was going to staple to the arch so that I had the look of greenery, because until I can train something to grow up around it, I'm thinking of a nice rose or jasmine or something that smells nice. This is going to have to do. So didn't want loads of artificial flowers, I just wanted the greenery just to fill it out and give it that look of lushness that maybe looked more realistic than not. and these were just the pieces that I picked up, as I said, from my stash, and I sort of just weaved them all in together. And what I used was a staple gun and just tacked everything into place, and to be honest, it doesn't look too bad. I laid everything out on the table and kind of set it up visually so that I knew where everything was going, and then got my staple gun, stapled everything in place, and once it was done I wrapped it with solar twinkle lights. And like I said, this is just until I can get something to grow up around this, but I am thrilled with how this looks. It was so cheap, so easy, and literally using everything that I had on hand. I don't think I could have done this. I could have done it, but it would have taken me a few times, so thanks to my hubby for doing this. And like I said, I'm really pleased with it. And there's another little element of the garden that really works with my English country garden look. So either side of the arbor, it's attached to a barrel, so there's a half barrel either side, and I usually plant one up and then have a water feature in the other one. So I'm mixing it up this year. I've cleaned them out. I'm planting a spirea in that barrel, and then this side I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to weed it all out, and I'm going to add a visual barrier that sort of helps to enclose this side yard a little bit more. These two barrels are the foundation for the arbor, so the uprights are screwed to these barrels, so they are quite heavy and they're quite substantial. On one side I want to create a visual barrier with these birch sticks that I've been collecting, and the other side I'm planting a spirea bush that I already have in the garden. As I said, I've collected these sticks over time, and I am cutting them largest to smallest, largest being in the center, and then duplicating like a mirror image, smaller. So it's almost like a half moon semicircle. So I've dug out half of the barrel, and you can see it's really quite waterlogged. We did drill some more extra holes in the bottom of the barrels for drainage, but these were ex-winery barrels, so they are very substantial, and of course they are watertight. So I'm going to place the sticks in the pattern that I've said, and then we're just going to backfill everything with the soil that we dug out. So it's nearly finished. The sticks are in place, and they are firmly in place. I have backfilled everything and tamped it down. What I need to do next is gather the items that need to go on top of the barrel. So what I do is I have some little garden rocks, the same little rocks that I used in my water feature, and I have a little Buddha water feature. I'm not going to be using it as a water feature, it's a little fountain, because there's no plugs in this area. But there we go, there's the finished item. I've got some solar lights that I've threaded through the backs of the sticks, and hopefully at night it should look lovely. Honestly, what garden is complete without whimsical lighting? None that I've ever had. What I'd gathered is these little jars, and I've been looking through Pinterest and finding different things. I thought I'd try this one. So I've got some little pieces of lace, and I've used some double-sided tape to hold the lace in place. I'm going to cut it to length, and then once it's stuck down with this double-sided tape, I'm going to go back over it with a needle and thread and sew it into place. This is just to hold everything in place while I'm sewing it together, because it's difficult to do otherwise. And then I've got this lovely wire. I use this all the time. I don't know what I'm going to do when I run out of it. It was something that I thrifted probably a couple of years ago. It was a massive spool of wire. It's so soft that it bends, but it's really strong as well. So I'm making a loop So you can see I've gone halfway around. I've made a loop to start with, making a loop on the other side, and then the last piece is going to go through the first loop. I'm going to cut it to length, and then I'm going to thread it through the other loop on the other side, fold it back onto itself, and I've got a little hanger or handle for my jar. So I'm just tightening everything up with these little pliers, and you can see I've got a loop at the beginning that I started with, a loop halfway round. I'm threading the wire back through the first loop and pulling it tight, and then I'm passing it back through the second loop, folding it back on itself, and I've got a little handle. And you can tighten these up with pliers, but honestly I found, because there's no real weight in these little candle holders, so they work really well. I just pop the candle in the bottom. This is another project that I've seen that's similar to something on Pinterest. They make them with garden cages. This, what I have here, is a 3-tier basket system. They were all connected together, but I separated them and put them as their own little individual hanging baskets. I used to have this in my kitchen with fruits and vegetables in. This is from the dollar store or Dollar Tree. It's just string with greenery wired onto it. And I also have a box that I have, a hat box that is full of chandelier glass and crystals. So what I want to do is wrap each of these little cages with the greenery. Then I want to hang some of these little chandelier pieces off them, and then I'm going to stick in the center a solar the solar piece of a little garden stake, and hopefully I'll get a lovely reflection of the light through the crystals that I can hang in the garden. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. As you can see, I didn't know whether to do it upside down or the right way around. I decided to do it like this, so they are hanging. And as I said, I'm going to be wrapping the top outer circle ring with the greenery, and then every now and again adding a little crystal in. The baskets that I have are small, medium and large, and what I did was I put a little bit of a different combination of crystals hanging on each one. So this is the smallest one, and I've done like 3 little balls and a teardrop, and I've just added them to the section that holds the chain. So I'm not filling it all up. I'm just putting 3 crystals on each of the little light fixtures. So I did the same with all 3, wrapped them with the greenery, stuck on the little chandelier pieces, and then got this glue, which is like a metal glue, glass to metal or plastic to metal, and just took the tops off these little solar lights and attached them to the center of the little cages. Let them dry and they're ready to go. So I was working on lighting for the garden room as well, and this is probably going to end up in the garden room, but I've made it to go on the table. This is a little bird cage. I've put a battery operated remote candle in the middle, and then I've wrapped it with some moss and some little pieces of artificial greenery. I was initially going to put a little bird's nest in and some twinkle lights, but I really like the look of the candle. So this is going outside for this video, but this will probably end up in the garden room with some other lighting that I've made for that. So let's have a quick look at how everything is pulled together. Now bear in mind, this is going to be a project that progresses because I have more flowers to come. Everything is going to obviously fill out the planting that I've done there. The pots will be filled out, everything will grow, it'll get more lush. We are getting a new fence in a couple of weeks. I have more flowering pots that need to be filled, but this is, as I said, this is something that will come over time. Everything that I've got here now has been pulled from my own garden. This little bench was something that we bought probably 15 years ago. It is old, it is broken, but I just loved the look of it in the garden. I've grabbed various little items from around the garden, some little stone features, some all the lighting is stuff that I've picked up either from a garage sale or thrifting, but you can get everything at various shops, garden centres and Amazon. So let's have a look how everything's come together. Dudley is sitting on the old bench that really does need a good repair, but it just looks so perfect in the garden. These are the little herb faux concrete containers that I made a few weeks ago, and those are holding up perfectly, and we have had a lot of rain. In the background there you can see an old stone lion's head that was attached to the walls on two of my old houses. It got broke in one of the moves, but used to be a beautiful old water feature. These are just little items that I've pulled from the garden just to cover up various mechanics as we walk around. I love these little lights that I picked up at a garage sale late in the season last year, and I didn't even think they would work, but they are brilliant and they are solar powered, so I love those. This is Ursula. She came from my garden. I've had her for many years. The iron fence panels, I've got a couple of those that I like to incorporate throughout the garden. And then I've got our little hanging lights on these little stands that I've placed in the garden beds. I wanted to point out, this is a great idea if you have old mirrors. We found this old mirror behind one of the sheds, cleaned it up, and my husband made like an easel for it, and then screwed the easel to the shed and then slid the mirror in, so it's almost like a frame for the mirror. It helps to disguise that very ugly shed, but also reflects the garden absolutely beautifully, and at night it's lovely because it extends the light as well. So I've also included a video of it at night with the fairground lighting on, but also with just the twinkle lights on, so stay tuned to the end to see both.